People were shocked and running for their lives. And they said, go live and get down there. So I ran right toward it.
This is the news leader, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
In this half hour, a new book that gives first-hand accounts from some of the people who were on the front lines.
I called my bosses at the Associated Press in Washington, D.C., and I say, do you guys see this? In fact, on September 11th, I was at home watching Good Morning America, and I just couldn't believe my eyes.
Plus, how reporting on the 9/11 attacks as the events unfold changed broadcast history.
In covering Catastrophe, you will hear from more than 130 journalists in New York, D.C., and Pennsylvania. A chronology of the day.
Robin Walensky, a reporter with the Associated Press, was one of those journalists.
I was on a payphone waiting to go live for the Associated Press radio, and I heard people screaming, oh my God, and I peered around the payphone, and the South Tower collapsed, and a man standing next to me, I'll never forget it, he said, oh my God, a part of America is gone forever. And you know, I felt the exact same way.
September 11th had a profound effect on all of us, including the journalists who covered it.
And what I remember, Lynn, about that day, it was so silent and people were evacuating, but in the silence there was this one woman who was hysterical crying, and the reason she was because her husband worked for the Port Authority and he was in Tower 1, and before I could hand this woman a tissue, he appeared.
Are you okay?
Great.
Oh my God, no!
Are you all right, sir?
I'm fine, thank you.
You're covered. What happened?
I was on the 65th floor of 68th floor of One World Trade Center, and there was a massive explosion. The whole building shook. I was only about 15 floors below where the plane hit.
That's what makes that piece of tape so dramatic today, 7 months later, is that that's the emotional reunion that so many people wanted and they never got.
That is so powerful. I had not heard that before.
You're watching Southern Nevada's #1 choice for news. This is News 3 at noon.
Covering Catastrophe, broadcast journalist report September 11th, and the author is Robin Walensky.
And so the human conflict is in this book. Stories that you have yet to hear. We have 3 different photographers who were down there, and when people started to jump, we have one photographer who talks about how he continued to roll because he went into automatic mode, because that's what he was used to doing, you know, just roll on everything. Where another photographer looked up, looked away, and turned his camera off. And a third photographer said the Lord's Prayer. Just very touching as you read these accounts.
Was this therapeutic for you, for both of you guys?
For me, extremely therapeutic, having been down there and watched the buildings crumble in slow motion, a sight that I'm sure if you were there, you'll never forget. When you watch the pictures, it's just so dramatic. To me, looking at it now, it's such an empty feeling with the Trade Center gone. It feels like a molar has been pulled out of my mouth. That's how I feel. It's such an empty feeling. In covering Catastrophe, it just comes out, if you read the accounts, that journalists really handled themselves extremely well on an extraordinary day.
But then when the second plane hit,
terrorism. And of course, this was a target before. In 1993, I covered the World Trade Center bombing back then. And it was a target once 8 years ago, and it became a target again.